So basically, I thought we would just start off, and I'm going to let Ira take you through his journey before he got to Star Trek and what he's been doing since. And then I will give you a quick spiel, because most of you have heard my story many times. And then we'll open it up for questions, because I know that's really what you guys like to do. So, but in the meantime, Ira, your journey began.
Can you believe, did you think when we were in the thick of it back low, those many years ago,
No.
that we would one day be sitting here with all of it behind us and having people care about what we have to say? Is that amazing? Those
It is
days,
amazing.
those busy days when we were so frantic, and now we're just sitting back and relaxing and having a good time, and I hope you're having a good time too. So, my journey, that's a long story. Anyway, I started out studying, like a lot of writers. I started out thinking I was going to be a playwright. And so I was supposed to go to Brandeis University for playwriting, a scholarship, and Israel Horovitz, the summer before I was supposed to go, left the university, let me just put it like that. So, and I got a nice letter from the guy who was going to take over, and I asked Israel, should I do it? He said, no, it's going to suck without me. And my big fear in life was I was going to wind up becoming an academic. You know, you'd be a playwright, maybe you'd get something produced off Broadway, but basically I'd be teaching, and I didn't want to do that. Particularly, I wanted to give it a shot. And then Israel had done a play at the Circle in the Square with Diane Keaton called The Primary English Class. And I was with him during the rehearsals and casting and all that. I got to know her pretty well, and one day someone stole her boots out of her dressing room, and those boots were $200. Now, back in the day, $200 for a pair of shoes would have just blew my mind, but the producers refused to pay her back. Now, this is Diane Keaton. They wouldn't pay. They stole it out of the dressing room at the theater, and they would not give her $200. I said, screw this, screw the theater, I'm going to Hollywood. So that's how I got out here, and did all the stuff you have to do, trying to meet people, blah, blah, blah. And then I lucked out and got a gig on a show called, this is how long ago this was, the show called Fame. We're Gonna Live Forever with Janet Jackson. That was the year Janet Jackson was on the show. That was interesting. And I just lucked out. There were new executive producers, and there was everyone had left of the writing staff, and they had done only sitcoms, so they didn't know jack about hour-long TV. And it was just the three of us for 10 weeks, and I was supposedly going to be the low man on the totem pole, and after 10 weeks, they liked me, something like that. And so that's really how I learned everything, how I learned to run a writer's room, how I learned to cast, audition actors, everything, edit, the whole ball of wax. And then we come other shows, but Star Trek, it's amazing that I'm here. I mean, it's just amazing that I'm here. Because in season 2, I got a call to have lunch at the Paramount Commissary with Maurice Hurley to come on board to be on TNG season 2. How this happened, I don't have a freaking clue. I think there was an executive who had been at MGM when I was doing Fame, who then went to Paramount and had read a Bible for a series that was science fiction. I don't know what the hell I was doing there. But Maurice was he actually had quite a sense of humor about it, but he was a bitter and broken man. He was telling me, I just want you to know, you come on the show, it's fine if you want to come, but I just want you to know that you can't go down to the set, you can't talk to the actors. You will have, at night, Gene's lawyer will go through your desk to make sure you're not saying anything negative about Gene. And it's like, what the fuck is going on here? It's like, so I said no. At the meeting, I said, I'm not doing this job. And he didn't care, you know. And I thought, okay, that was my little tiny touch of Star Trek, and that's it. A year later, Maurice is gone, and a buddy of mine, Michael Piller, has taken over the show after Michael Wagner had left the show after a couple of months.
6 weeks.
6 weeks, yeah. And
It's a revolving door.
Yeah, exactly. So I knew Michael, not well, but I knew him. I considered him a buddy. And Hans Beimler and Ricky Manning, who I had given their first job to the last season of Fame, they were on Star Trek, TNG. So I said yes. You know, it was weird. I'm going, this is, you know, second chances are few and far between. Let me know if I'm going on too long.
No, you're fine. I'm reliving my past. Here I go.
So this, my first day on Star Trek, I walk in to the office, and you know, I knew Mike. We were buddies. I thought, I'll come in, I'll sit down, you know, on the other side of his desk. He'll fill me in, he'll clue me in, he'll let me know what, you know, because they were about on episode 8, I think.
Probably, yeah. That
I
makes
think they
sense.
were about to shoot Who Watches the Watchers,
Okay.
which I think was 9, I think.
That
Anyway,
sounds right.
something like that. And then I'd go see Hans and Ricky, and I'd sit with them, kill some time, talk about what it's like being on the show, and then we'd go to lunch, you know? And then in the afternoon, maybe I'd go down to the set, and even though you're not supposed to, I'd go down to the set anyway. I walk into Michael's office prepared for that kind of a day, and he goes, okay, listen, I need Act 3 of, I think it was The Hunted.
That was about that time.
Yeah, The Hunted. I need Act 3 by the end of the day here. Now, I should have started this by saying I did not watch TNG. I watched 20 minutes of the pilot, and that's as far as I got. So I really did not know the show. And what Michael said was, oh, you know, don't worry, it's not a lot of dialogue. Most of it takes place in the Jeffries tube. Did they get shrunk in size? Is this like the Fantastic Voyage? I mean, what the hell? So I go into Hans and Ricky's office, my buddies, who we spent a season working together. And I go, hum, and they go, don't bother us, we're busy, we're doing a rewrite. They were miserable, they were already planning on exiting the series. Goodbye. So I go, this is a nightmare. This is it. I'm going to last one day on this show, and I'm going to hand in nothing, and Mike's going to be like, wow, you disappointed the hell out of me. I guess goodbye. So I'm standing in the hallway, and this not little, but this short guy walks over to me and says, hi, my name is Richard Danis.
Yeah, Richard Danis.
Richard
That's right.
Danis.
I forgot about him.
And I am the dead man walking, because he had a 10-week contract and he knew he was going to be fired. So he knew his time was, he goes, what can I do for you? He didn't know me, we're meeting, I go, tell me everything about this script, The Hunted and Blood, what's a Jeffries tube? And he said, come into my office. And this guy who I had never met just laid it all out for me in like 20 minutes. So it's like, thanks. And I went into my office and I just regurgitated 10, 12 pages of stuff. And I said, screw Hans and Ricky, I'm gonna take this to Richard Danis and see what he thinks. So I said, read it, let me know before I give it to Mike. So he read it and he said, yeah, great, yeah, you're a writer. I think that's what he said. Yeah, you're a writer, you can write. And at that point I was doing everything in longhand on a yellow legal pad.
I was just going to say, he wrote all these scripts on a long legal pad, and his writing is kind of like a doctor's.
Yes, at least I
Yes.
can't know. I can't figure out what I'm writing half the time. Anyway, so then we gave it to Lolita's department or whoever. I don't know who the hell typed it up, but someone typed it up, gave it to Michael, and I was like, just thinking about it now, I get that feeling of anxiety because it was like, you know, that day had gone by in such, it was not the day I had planned at all. And I walked into his office at the end of the day, and Mike, don't get me wrong, Mike was rewriting a lot of stuff and he was under a lot of pressure. And I think that he had trouble with his shoulder,
Yes.
tennis, and he had a bandage.
Yeah,
his
the
whole
bandage he
shoulder
wore,
was
and
bandaged.
He used one of those chairs where you kneel on it.
Yeah. So he was not in the best of shape. And so I walked into his office and he goes, this is great, thank you, great first day, you know, I'll see you tomorrow. And that was how don't. Anyway, so, and then, like within a week, he called me and he said, this is what we're going to do for the rest of the season. I'm going to be responsible for one show and you're going to be responsible for one show. We're going to trade off. It's like, Michael, where are you coming up with these ideas? Because I still don't know, you know, but that's how he was, and he gave me a lot of responsibility. He gave me, you know, Hans and Ricky, Melinda Snodgrass, who wrote Measure of a Man, who I love, but they were all done. They were like not the happiest campers. We had Ron, who was like the just starting out, and he didn't know, you know, he was like...
He was on a week-to-week contract, didn't know if he'd come back on Monday.
Yeah, he was just
Ron
so...
Moore, who we're talking about, yeah.
He was so happy to be there. He was so happy, and everyone else was so miserable. So Ron and I got close, and anyway, so that's how Star Trek began.
And then, but you left TNG.
Yeah,
Then you came back for DS9. So
Yeah.
what happened in between there?
Well, I was given a pay or play. Remember pay or play?
Yes, I do.
I was given a 2-year pay or play contract to come back for seasons 4 and 5. And I was in Hawaii with my family, and my agent called and said, Rick Berman says Ira Behr will never turn down a pay or play 2-year offer. And I said, tell Rick Berman I'm not coming back. No way, no how, ever. And that was the end. And I thought that was it. Star Trek was over. I was done. I left. Melinda left. Hans and Ricky left. And then I got into a whole other story we could talk about forever with Joel Silver. I wrote a movie for Harrison Ford, and I spent 1.5 years doing that. And the day that Harrison finally signed to do the movie, of course they removed me from the project, even though it was my project, and brought in other writers because I was known as Harrison's guy, and now they wanted Warner Brothers guys. But I did get to go up in the Warner Brothers jet back in the day when they did things like that, and I'd go up to Jackson Hole to his house. So I thought I was living pretty large, and it was kind of fun. But Michael was always taking me to ball games, to Dodger games, wanting to know what I was doing and when I'd be done. And he started to talk about this new show they were doing. And this is something that never happens. And I cannot impress on you enough how amazing this moment in time was. Because we were at a ball game and Mike said, listen, I want you to come back. Now we were friends and I left him. And if he had done that to me, I would have been pissed off, and I don't know if I ever would have talked to him. But Mike was a different animal. He said, I want you to come back to this show. It's called Deep Space Nine. I'm going to give you the Bible to read. There wasn't even a script at this time. It was just the Bible. Bashir was called Amoros.
Yes, completely different stuff. Yeah.
Completely different. He goes, if you like it, you will come back, and I promise you, within 2 years, I will give you the show. And you will run the show for the last 5 years. And this show will represent your sensibilities way more than TNG. It's going to be darker, more character driven, and there's a lot of places you can take it.
And that's what you did.
And if anyone else had said that to me, I would have said, bullshit, because it would have been bullshit. But Michael, I went back to my wife and I said, "You're not going to believe this." She goes, "Who won the Dodger game?" It's like, the Dodger game? And as soon as I said it to her, she goes, "Well, if Michael said it to you, you know it's true." Michael doesn't...
Michael would never lie for anything.
Impossible.
Yeah. He's not that guy.
He's just not that guy, is right. So I said yes, and I had to have lunch with Rick, and I thought Rick would ding it. And Rick was like, "Just tell me you're not going to leave again after a year." And I said, if everything goes the way it's supposed to go, I will stay. And he had no problem. I was really, really shocked. And then it was Michael, Peter Allen Fields, and me, and we could talk about that forever, but let's just, so then I did the blah, 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 and then I finished that, blah, 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 7 years, and then I did a bunch of other shows. Some of them have wonderful stories, but, they would leave you all in tears, or leave me in tears. The business sometimes doesn't, turn out the way you want it to. That was an amazing thing, because I hadn't been to a convention in like 13 years. And I went to see Avery Brooks. Avery Brooks is the most fascinating, most complicated man I've ever known or worked with, and I was just fascinated. I used to think about Avery all the time, I kid you not. And when I had a chance, when I heard he was going to be at this convention, and Lolita asked if I wanted to go, I said yeah, and it was a very touching reunion. He hugged me way longer than I have ever been hugged by someone who isn't my wife. And it was really touching, and I was standing in the big auditorium watching some panel, and this guy, Dave Zappone, who had interviewed me for the Captains and a couple of other things, and the one that Bill interviewed me. Chaos on the Bridge, yep. So I kind of knew Dave, and he came up to me and he goes, this is his opening line, "How would you like to be William Shatner?" I like his bank account. And I said, "What the hell are you talking about?" He goes, "Well, we're going to do a Deep Space Nine doc, and Bill's not, I'm not even going to ask Bill, because he just did Chaos, and he had done 2 in a row, right?"
I forget all the names.
Yeah, Captains and Bridges.
Chaos.
He goes, he's not going to do another one. And how would you like to interview the actors? And I thought, wow, some of these people I hadn't seen, I finally was seeing them at the convention. So without even thinking, it's going to be a 1-hour documentary, and we'll do it. It won't be a day job. Not Michael Pillar, I'll tell you that.
David, yes.
So without even thinking, I said, yeah. I've never done a documentary. He said, you can, maybe direct it if you want. I said, no. I just want to interview the actors. That's it. That's all I'm going to do. That took 6 years. And to be honest, the first 3 was off and on. They went off and did Spock. I was doing another TV series. But all through that time, I kept saying, it's not my doc, it's your doc. And I'm not, I'm just interviewing the actors. And they said from the very beginning, it's like, it's your doc. You're going to have to be the one to figure it out. It's going to reflect your take on Deep Space Nine. I said, no. And then finally, I was in Dave's office, and there were the index cards of every scene that had been shot, all up and down the wall. And, you know, you could spend the rest of your life moving them around trying to make a coherent story out of it. And it suddenly dawned on me, I had that flash, that moment of true satori, as they call it, that moment of golden illumination, that these mofos had been right all along. No one was going to put those cards in the right order except me. You know, obviously, because it was my life up there. So from then on, for the next 3 years, that became, again, you don't do it for money, you do it for love, and this was love. And for 3 years, 2.5 maybe, that became my main. Suddenly I was driving back to Paramount after, you know, being there for 8-9 years. Every day it seemed. Now I'm driving back to Paramount and Dave's office is looking out on the sound stages where we shot Deep Space Nine. It was like, you know, and just getting together with Sirach and Sadig and people, you know, some of the actors who I hadn't seen in a long, long time or had only seen briefly at a convention. It was an amazing, amazing experience. And whatever monkey I had on my back about Deep Space Nine and doing it for 7 years and no one seeming to like it and fighting with the powers that be constantly for serialization and this, that, and the other thing, all those fights and all that sense of this isn't really Star Trek and blah, 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 all the bullshit. You know, after that documentary, it was like that monkey, boom, off my back. You know, it's out there, people like it, or if people don't like it, I don't have to care anymore because I feel really good, and I think the actors got a chance to feel really good and remember a time that was indeed very special, and a time, let's face it, that, you know, we all left a little bit of ourselves at Deep Space Nine. So there you go.
Yay, thank you.
His old office at one point on the first floor, then I went upstairs, then upstairs again. Anyway, but every time you'd walk into the building and I would pass Lolita's office, you could feel, you know, let's be kind and call it energy, you know? She was always under the gun, you know, always. And we were under the gun too, but we had moments where we'd go up onto the roof and clear our heads and stand around and just kind of bullshit for a while. There was no. It was non-stop.
Yes.
It was just crazy.
Yes, and you're right, and thank you for that. And especially because for most of those years, I was working on 2 shows. And not to mention the first 2 Next Generation movies at the same time.
Oh my God.
So, and there are many of us who did cross over into both shows, but also 26 episodes of television a year.
I was interviewing Steve Oster, the line producer, on the Paramount lot. And we were in the midst, they were filming it, we were talking, and Dave said, stop filming, Ira, come on. I've got Avery on the phone, go for it again. I said, Dave, I'm in the midst of something. He goes, no, go for it. I had a feeling it was not going to go well, but I got on the phone, and Avery was not a happy camper. He did not want, I could tell he didn't want to talk to me at that point. And he said some stuff that, you know, I just talked about it with Sirach Lofton last night. And we had talked about it before, but we talked about it again. And I knew then that was it. You know, Dave could keep trying, but that was the last time I was going to ask him. And so it goes. But he's, you know, I hope, you know, the thing with Avery is he had when I got on Deep Space Nine, and remember, I was not the showrunner, Mike was the showrunner, but I got calls from executives saying, don't work with Avery Brooks. You know, he's too difficult, he doesn't like white people. I mean, they said the most incredible things, you know, and, you know, I had a really, really my wife still talks about the phone calls we get from Avery. Hi, this is Avery Brooks. Hi, Avery. It's Laura. I know who you are. You don't have to keep introducing yourself. You know, especially when he directed. He called me every night when he directed a show. That's when he was most engaged, and we would talk on the phone about what he shot that day and what he was going to shoot the next day. It was so cool. It was so much, you know, fun. But you know, he is the most vulnerable. Everyone thought he was the toughest, you know. And to me, Avery Brooks is the most vulnerable man I ever worked with. He's like an open wound. You know, I can't tell you what went on in his life. He's, you know, he's like many bright people. His emotions are close to the surface, and so he has to damp them down and fight that thing. I think his feelings get hurt very easy, and he's able to hide that with a passion. And he's just brighter than most of the people he has to deal with, you know, and I think that's sometimes frustrating for him too. But I will say, in all the years, 40 freaking years of working the business, there's no one I think about more, you know, than Avery.
Thank you.
Yeah. Interesting, I can't talk right now. Dave Zappone still hears from Avery Brooks. For some reason, they have this really interesting relationship, and Dave, who is the executive producer of these documentaries, who's on the ship, he'll just, one day he'll be driving down the road and Avery will call, and there's no rhyme or reason to it. So, I mean, he's still there, so, but he communicates with Dave. But yeah, you first, then you.
The schedules and the production deadlines and all of this, and the revolving door you mentioned earlier. How does a production maintain the level of quality and integrity that a show like Star Trek, through its many iterations, has been able to do?
Well, we were extremely lucky. You know, a lot of it is just a roll of the dice. I mean, the first two seasons, it was, first season was Mike, Pete, Fields, and myself, and then somewhere within that season, Robert Hewitt-Wolf came along, and so we basically did season one, and that kind of worked. At the end of season one, Michael tried to fire Robert. I said, he fired Robert, and you know, it's like Robert came into my office in tears and said, I've been fired. And I walked into Michael's office, I said, unfire him. You know, it's his first job, he's brand new. I know you hold people to this very high level, but I am telling you, he will get there. And you jumped the gun, and now I'm gonna send him into your office, and you're gonna say, you're back, which is exactly what happened. Then in season two, we had Jim Crocker came along, and that's when season two, which was the most important season of Deep Space Nine, because that's when we came up with the Dominion, that's when we came up with really starting to think serialization. And then we got Renee and Ron, and I just have to tell you, there was one point in season 5, I think it was season 5, might have been season 4. I'm in Rick's office and we're doing notes, or actually at that point we were just sitting around and you know, chatting. And he walked over to his window, as he sometimes did, and he looked out and he turned to me with a little smirk on his face and he said, "Your staff." And I got up and I walked over to the window, and it was during lunchtime, and I had told the guys not to wait for me because we always had lunch together, go to lunch. And I looked, and it's Ron, Renee, Wolf, and I think Hans was there at that time and come back. And they were all wearing black leather jackets. Most of them had a goatee, you know, and it was, and boots. And it was like, and it's like, yeah, you goddamn right, that's my staff, you know. And it got to the point where we were coming close to the end of the season, and I was again another time up in Rick's office, and he asked me what I was going to do on my 2 or 3 week hiatus, because that's all we got as the writers. Then we had to get right back to it and start breaking stories. He said, "What are you going to do?" I said, "Well, Rick, Ron and Renee and Robert and Hans and I and our families are all going to Hawaii together." And he said, "Wow, wow, that is something. Wow, that is so great." I said, "Rick, are you out of your goddamn mind? We live together 24/7, it seems, all year. We have 2 weeks off. You think we want to see?" But he believed it. He believed it because he knew that staff. You know, we worked like clockwork. Half the day writing, half the day breaking stories, and then I would have to go to every pre-production meeting and every casting session. But somehow we made that work. You know, we went out to lunch. There's never been another show where I've been able to go out off the lot to lunch every day, but every lunch was a working lunch. You know, so we could take 2 hours of lunch, unheard of. But we always got jobs done. When Renee Echeverria was doing the motion ride in Vegas, the experience, and he had never been on a motion ride, so he was bitching every morning. "How am I going to do this? I've never been on a motion ride. What is a motion ride?" So everyone kept talking about Star Tours at Disneyland. "I've got to go on Star Tours one day. When am I going to ever get to go to Disneyland? We're too busy." And he came in one morning and was bitching about that. I said, "That's it, we're going to Disneyland." And we got what's his name? Bob Gillen. I said, "Bob Gillen will have a legal pad and we'll take notes in the car so we can still work. We will drive down to Disneyland. We will go on this goddamn ride. Renee will know what a motion ride is. And then we're coming back to work. God bless us one and all." So we're in the hallway and it's like, okay, come on, let's not make a big deal of this. Let's go. And suddenly I look, and Ken Biller from Voyager is standing in the hallway, and it's like, "Can I go too?" And it's like, I said, "You don't work for me, you know? I cannot give you permission to go. You know, and I don't want to hear Jared Taylor saying that I'm hijacking her writers in the middle of the frickin' day to go to Disneyland." But somehow, he conned his way into going. So he came with us. I don't think Brandon came. Maybe he did. I don't even remember. So we went on the ride. Talk about golden illumination. Renee came off it going, "So that's a motion ride. Wow. Now I understand. It's the veils have parted, and I see the Grampian Hills." You know, so it was good. And it's like, okay, back to the car. We're walking out, and we pass a brand new ride that had just opened called Indiana Jones. And I'm walking, and I am not making this up. I am walking, and I'm talking to the staff. And suddenly I turn around and I'm by myself. And they're all standing there, lined up in a row by the entrance to Indiana Jones. And they're looking at me. "Please, can I go on Indiana Jones and then go home?" It's like, okay, we're going to go on Indiana Jones, and then we're going home. So, as you can imagine, the line for Indiana Jones when it had just opened was massive. So, it's like, okay, I was able to think of that as we're going to have lunch in line. So, there was the tiki, whatever that is, or whatever they had where we could take out food, and so we're all in line. And we get on Indiana Jones, and everyone is so excited and looking and waiting. We get halfway through the goddamn ride, it breaks down. Not only does it break down, but they can't fix it, and all the lights come up. And suddenly, all the kind of paint, that kind of day glow paint, and everything kind of looks like cheesy and creepy and like bleh. And so they take us out of the carts, and we go to this behind the scenes, this hallway, and one of the friendly crew at Disneyland goes, "If you care to wait, we'll put you on the ride." So I'm going, okay, we're leaving, we're going, come on, let's go, and I'm talking, and then I get this feeling that I'm by myself, and I turn around, and they're like, can we just kind of sit here? Because they wanted us to sit for some reason on the ground, and can we sit here and talk over story, while we wait so we can go on the ride and finish the experience of Indiana Jones.
My God.
So, okay, yes we can. And we went on Indiana Jones, and it did not break down, and everyone was happy. And then we still got back in time to do some more work before the end of the day.
Unbelievable. Sorry, he's asking about the Section 31 that was created during Deep Space Nine, and now they're using it in our timeline now on the new shows.
I would rather not comment on new Trek. I would say this: if there would have been an 8th season at the time, not now and sitting in the writer's room for the doc and break, but if we had gone to an 8th season, after the Dominion, we were not going to we weren't going to create more enemies or better villains or blah blah blah. And I told the guys, the problem is going to be Earth, and I was going to pitch, Deep Space Nine was going to take another step into the unknown and do a show that revolved more around Earth than space, though we'd still have space, and we wouldn't be on Deep Space Nine as much because that crew would be closer to home, and basically the enemy would be Section 31, because after you destroy or defeat your biggest enemy, the only enemy left is you, and we're seeing that now in this country, which we won't go into, but so that's how I saw Section 31. To see a rogue admiral, okay, but that's been done a million times. I actually knew the people and had some dealings with the attempt to make Section 31 into a show, and I think to try to make Section 31, to go back in time and make them the good guys and see how they changed into the bad guys, that's a valid way to do it. It wouldn't be the way I would do it necessarily, but there is no doubt what that one was. Someone has a wicked sense of humor. No, the one that was the most fun, in fact, as I like to say, it was a little bit too much fun, was Trials and Tribble-ations.
Absolutely, yes. That had to have been your pick, yeah.
You have to understand, when Rick called me up and said we're doing, it was the 30 years, was it? Yeah, 30 years. All I kept thinking was a Peanuts cartoon, never trust anyone over 30. So why would we make a big deal about turning 30? But anyway, so I said no. That was, me. That was, my default position is no until you can turn it into a yes. So I said, we don't want to let Voyager do that. We're about breaking new ground. Who wants to remember the past? But of course that's bullshit, because we all sat around and got involved with it. I wanted to do Charlie X and get Robert Walker Jr. back to do it, but he had stopped acting, and even though I kind of knew him vaguely from Malibu when I lived in Malibu shortly, he wasn't going to do it. Then we talked about the one with the gangsters. Rod wanted to do that. Yeah. Piece of the Action. We were going to do Piece of the Action, but that didn't go, so we wound up with And let me tell you, that was a brutal, brutal time because no one wanted to work. Everyone wanted to enjoy themselves. At least I'm talking about the writers. And all they kept begging me was, because we didn't have much time to go down to the set. My biggest regret about the 7 years on Deep Space Nine was I did not have a chance, and I know why, because as we said, 26 episodes a year, and the fact that the sets were on the other side of the lot, but that I did not have better communication with the actors. I didn't go down enough to the set to kick some directors in the ass a couple of times when they needed kicking in the ass. I really, really regret that, because there are things that I would have liked to have handled with performance and just understanding, giving them a better understanding of what we were trying to achieve. But man, when we did that frickin' episode, everyone just wanted to live on the goddamn set. And it's like, we gotta we have other episodes we have to do. You know, the season isn't over. It's not, we don't end with Trials and Tribble-ations. So again, the staff was, please, can we go down? So we finally went down. I said, and this isn't going to be one of those, two people go down. We're all going down. If we're going to go down for this, we stop work and we go down, because I don't want it to be, because then someone says, he got to go down and I didn't get to go down. It's not fair. So we all went down, and it was the scene in the bar with the fighting, and we walked in, and Michael Dorn and Colomini and Sadig were all sitting around as they were lighting the sets, and just as we walked in, they were saying snarky things about the script. Just actors hanging out and just, doing bitching and moaning. Well, it wasn't that they were busted. I just looked at Ron and Renee and Hans, and it was like, it's like, this is what happens, this is, we have our pressure back in the writer's room, they have their pressure down on the stage, and how they alleviate some of their pressure is to bitch and moan about the shitty stuff they have to say, even if it's not shitty stuff. And they didn't mean it, and they were, but that was pretty funny. But the best story about, and I'm sure many of you know this, we were at Mulberry Pizza in Beverly Hills when we first started to think about doing the Tribble episode. And we were all sitting together at a table eating. When we go there, everyone had to eat 4 slices of pizza, because we'd get 2 big, large pies and then go back and work for another 4 or 5 hours. Anyway, we were trying to figure out if there was anyone left alive from the guest cast of the Trouble with Tribbles. And, people were naming names, and I said, nope, dead. Nope, dead. Nope, dead. And then I said, hey, the only one who's alive, because my wife actually would see him around Coffee Bean, was Charlie Brill, who played the guy who was a Klingon but who looked like a human. Anyway, I said, Charlie Brill is still alive. And they said, Charlie Brill. I said, I vaguely remember. And I think Ron said, I wonder what he looks like now. And I looked over, and standing at the counter, ordering a slice of pizza.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone, and pardon the interruption. This is your cruise director, JT. I just wanted to provide another reminder regarding the photo session at 2:30 this afternoon in the main dining room on Deck 5 with Jeffrey Combs, Connor Trenier, and Todd Stashwick. And speaking of Todd Stashwick, I know most of you now know he is on board, but for those of you that missed the show last night, Todd was a very recent addition to Star Trek The Crew 6. We're thrilled to have him, and that photo session at 2:30 will be your only photo opportunity with Todd Stashwick. If you'd like tickets for that photo session, or any photo or autograph session for that matter, visit the Epic Photo and Autograph Sales Desk on Deck 4 next to Starbucks, and the team will be there today from now until 4 p.m. Thank you so much for your attention, and I'll be back in a while with more highlights.
That's the Ferengi commerce aspect of it.
Yeah, exactly.
No,
so was the last guy brought on. Who?
John only got 6.
Oh, I
Maybe
didn't know.
about this other
Is Michelle Hurley here?
No, she only
Okay. Of course, she's married to Gary Doha.
Yeah.
I worked with him on 2400.
Anyway, sorry.
Hey, sorry. So anyway, and there, standing ordering a slice of pizza, is Charlie Brown.
Oh my God.
How amazing. And I said, oh, that's him standing right over there. Of course, everyone,
That's so
ha,
weird.
Ha, 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 ha. I said, no. Hand to God. There is Charlie Brill. Of course, I had seen him with my wife outside of Coffee Bean. There he was, on the other side of the hill. Coffee Bean was in Studio City. Here we are in Beverly Hills. And it was like
Wow.
the hand of God. The only time, and he got the role. So that's like something bigger than ourselves. And the same thing happened when, and then we'll wrap this up. Same thing happened when we were going to cast Vic Fontaine, and we were in Nozawa Sushi this time, having lunch, which we did a lot. And I was telling the guys, Jimmy Darren, I think Jimmy Darren's going to play the role, and all these guys didn't know. Jimmy Darren, and I said, Time Tunnel? No. Gidget? No. Singing, Goodbye Cruel Work? No. And finally I said, T.J. Hooker with William Shatner. Oh, yeah. Of course, William worked with William Shatner. Of course, he has to be someone. And I get tapped on the shoulder, and there's this 6'5" guy standing there, goes, excuse me, my name is Christian Darren. I can't help, but you're talking about my dad. What? And he goes, you're going to love him. So, anyway,
Crazy.
one more?
Yeah, we have time for the one more over there.